Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to dig into the book of Luke today, and we're going to be looking at a fairly familiar passage, the passage of the prodigal son. And we're going to read it, and we're going to dig into it and figure out what it means and what it means for us. And so I encourage you to look that up and have that ready for when we read through it, so that you've got it in front of you, whether that's on your cell phone, on the Bible app, or in your physical Bible, or you've got a computer or tablet, and you just Google the passage and you'll be able to find it that way. It is in Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, which is in the New Testament, starting in verse 11. Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 11, and we're actually going to end up reading that whole story in a few minutes. Now, the key of this story, the heart of this story, really has to do with loving people and caring about people who are lost, who are in a mess, who don't know Jesus, and their lives are falling apart. And these people may be people that we might consider strangers, and we just see them and we care about them. But the real drive of this is that there are people that already exist in our lives that we're already very close to and already love a lot, who are lost, or who are hurting, who are in a mess, who need someone or something to save them and to make a difference in their lives and to bring them to Jesus, who is the only one that can really bring them to life. And I think we all have people in our lives that we can think of who they pop into our heads and we go, oh man, I wish they would come around. I wish they would listen. I wish they could get a fresh start. I wish they wouldn't be burdened by the stuff they are. I wish they would come to church with me, or whatever. And there's people that we consider broken and lost and hurting and empty, that we love deeply already. I can think of people in my family, whether they're cousins or an in-law, or that I care about, who I've been in my life for years, and I think of them and I go, ugh, I just want them to know Jesus. I need them to know Jesus. I've got friends that I knew in Bible school who are now doing crazy stuff, and I just desperately want them to come back and follow Jesus and know Jesus and be changed by Jesus. And I think we've all got people in our lives that we care deeply about, that we need them to find Jesus. We need them to come to life. We need them to have that new, eternal, full life of Jesus, to save them from the situations they're in, save them from the path they're walking down, save them for eternity, save them from sin, and save them from death. This may be your kids or your grandkids. Maybe your kids are doing all right, but your grandkids aren't, or maybe you're looking at it and you're wondering, I don't know why my kids are doing this, but they're leading my grandkids away from Jesus. Or one thing, maybe made mistakes, or you made mistakes with them growing up, but you look at them for one reason or another. You look at them and you see these precious people in your lives that you desperately want to come to know Jesus. And maybe it's not your kids, maybe it's your somebody else in your family. It could be your parents or your siblings or cousins. Maybe it's your friends, some of them lifelong friends and some of them recent friends that you've just had this really strong bond with, this really strong connection with, but you look at their lives and you know their hearts, and if you could somehow give up your life for them, you would, and they need Jesus. And regardless of how many times you talk to them, it seems like they're not budging. Or maybe you're watching this and this isn't about somebody else around you. Maybe this is about you. Maybe you knew Jesus at one point, or thought you knew him, and you turned away, or maybe you've just kind of danced with the whole religion thing and been to church, but you don't really know where Jesus fits in, or maybe you're just checking this out and you're wondering, what is this Jesus thing even about? What is all this church stuff really about, and how does it apply to me? And at some level, you have this sense that you need something, that you don't have the answers, and you could really use some help. So whether it's a loved one or it's yourself or whoever it is, we all know people who desperately need the life of Jesus. And that's where this story comes from, is that kind of emotional and relational standpoint. And so let's turn to Luke chapter 15, and let's just read it and let the word speak to us, and we'll dig through it here in a minute, okay? So Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 11, it says this. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to be a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on, and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." Now, there are all kinds of details of the story that we could dig into, but I really want to camp on this idea of just how much this man cared about his son, and how much we care about those people in our lives that need Jesus and need saving and need life change too. Back a few years ago, I was living up in Perth Andover, New Brunswick. It was my first full-time ministry position. I was a youth pastor. And I had been there for, 6 or 8 or 10 months, something like that. And we lived right on the river. And every spring, all the snow melts on the hills, and it runs down into the river, and the river rises. And depending on what the dam situation is like along that river, all the way down to the ocean, sometimes they close the dam, sometimes they open them, and depending on how much ice is in the river, the ice can jam up and block all the water, and then the water just starts to rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. And so this particular year, my first year there, the water started to rise. It was actually end of March. We had a few really hot days, like 25 degrees in the middle of March. And the water was just pouring into the river, pouring. And the ice was running fast down the river, and it jammed up. And the water kept rising and rising and rising. And there was like 12 feet of ice, like stacked ice, 12 feet high on some of the roads down there. I remember having to race to my apartment and grab a few things. I was walking in water. While going to the apartment, I ran upstairs, got a few things, drove, got across a bridge, and got to high ground. right before they closed the bridge, right before they sounded the emergency alarm, and I had another place to stay. And I connected with another family while up there, and they had a place to stay. And then we discovered that this one family was missing one of their daughters. And turns out that she and a group of her friends had decided to go down and look at the water, and they ended up being trapped. They were down there looking at the water, close to the water, and the water came up and up and up, and they ran out of places to go, and so they ended up having to actually break into a house and get into the second floor of the house to get away from the water. And so we were looking for them. We're calling around to people. We're trying to find them. Eventually, I think what ended up happening is they ended up calling my cell phone, and because they did, I don't think this guy had a cell phone, and so they remembered my number, so they called mine and they said, "We're in this house. We're in the second floor. The water's coming in." And they were scared. They were really scared. They thought they were going to die. They were running out of space. The water was coming up, and I think there were 4 or 5 of these teenagers there. And I can remember how desperate this father was to find his little girl and save her. Well, thankfully, we figured out where they were. We got to the emergency measures and told them, and they sent a boat, and they were able to get them out of the house and get them home. And I know there's a certain amount of frustration and anger involved here. Like, why would you be so stupid? Why would you go down around the water? Why would you do that? That was the dumbest thing you've ever done in your life. Why would you do that? But I don't remember that being part of the conversation when they got together. I don't remember that being part of the conversation for a long time. All that really mattered was that they had their girl home. They had their little girl home. That these families had their kids home. And they were, like, you're in that spot and you're desperate to find your loved one that's lost, and you're kind of beside yourself, losing your mind. But when you see them, when you get that hope, when you get that call that says, "I'm here, come get me," like every ounce of you jumps into, what do I got to do? How do I make this happen? Who do we talk to? Do I need to go down? Do I need to get a boat? What do I got to do? And you're just in it, ready to do whatever is necessary to get them the rest of the way home. That's what we need for the lost. That's what Jesus has for the lost. If you're watching this and you don't know Jesus, this is what he feels about you. He is desperately searching for you. He desperately wants you to come to him and be free of your sin and free of your guilt and free of your shame and free of those burdens, and be filled with life and be changed. And we have that passion for those that we already have these connections with. But there are so many more lost people in our world that we absolutely need to become desperate for. Troubled that they're missing. Bothered that they're not here. Furious that nobody's found them yet. And we need to become passionate, desperate for them to be found. And we think, how can we get them? And we put all our energy and all our focus in, how do we get them? How do we reach them? How do we get them this message? How do we go through all the walls and the barriers and all the issues with the church and issues with religion that people have, and all the walls and all the past history and failures that they face and all the hurts that they've had? How do we bust through all that? How do we break through that and show them who Jesus really is, and show them how much we love them and reach them? Because we need to be desperate for the lost to be found. That needs to be our passion. That needs to be what we do as a church, what we do as a people. So, how do we do that? how do we take this story and put it into our lives and apply it to really make a difference? Well, number one, if you're watching this and you don't know Jesus, or maybe you did and you've kind of lost your way, you're going your own way, whatever it is, come home. Jesus is your home. Jesus loves you. He cares for you. He's fighting for you. He wants to make incredible changes in your life that will set you free and make you full and give you purpose and meaning and take away the shame and take away the guilt and fill you with life, real full life grounded in peace. Accept him. And if you're not in the place where you're like, I don't know, find a church, find somebody that follows Jesus, talk to them, begin that conversation, search it out, because he is desperate for you to come home. For those of you that know Jesus, we need to pray. We need to pray desperately for God to move in hearts and to set people free and to reach out and to open doors and for us to be doing the right things, listening to God so that we follow the conviction He puts on our hearts and our lives. You need to go here, you need to do this, you need to give these things, you need to share, you need to speak, whatever. We need to pray and listen, and we need to pray desperately for the lost, that God will work miracles in behind them, all around them, and draw them close. We need to search. We need to share our faith with others. And it doesn't have to be a walk up to someone and give them a whole gospel message. You might simply be walking up to someone and saying, hey, hope you're having I see you're having a hard day. I hope your day gets better. Let me pray for you. I know that Jesus has made a difference in my life. And I know that he can make a difference in your life too. And it can be as that simple to open up the door to a conversation. It can be just meeting people in the mess, or not having your first interaction with them be you correcting them, but giving them grace and not judging them and attacking them like everybody else does, but we look at them with compassion and love and share with them hope. And we also need to be ready. We as a church need to be ready. We need to understand that people that need Jesus are going to come through these doors. People that need Jesus are going to be around. That we want them here. We're desperate for them to come here. We're desperate for them to know about Jesus and to follow him. And so we need to be setting up. We need to be doing music. We need to be doing preaching styles. We need to be treating each other. We need to have things set up in our church, in our world, that says, you are here and we saw you coming and we were so desperate for you to be here, so passionate about you being here, that we ran for you and we got everything ready for you to celebrate you coming. We didn't see you off in the distance and say, oh no, they're going to ruin everything. Oh no, they don't deserve it. We looked at you, we looked at them and said, I see him coming. I can't wait for him to get here. And we as a church need to have that passion in our lives for the lost. We need to pray, we need to search, and we need to be ready. And if you need Jesus, then I encourage you, I ask you, give him a shot. Come home. He's passionate for you. We're passionate for you. We're desperate for you to find the life of Jesus, because it will make all the difference. So if you are a follower of Jesus, I want you to think about this Father and his Son. And think about the lost people in your lives and the lost people around you. Think about how desperate you are that they would come and know Jesus. Because if we're going to be like Jesus, we need to be desperate for the lost to be found.